Stephanie White speaking about Caitlin Clark actually learning this new system. And me personally, I feel like she's forcing Caitlin Clark. Stephanie White forcing Caitlin Clark to learn a new system.
Just moments ago, the Indiana Fever's worst fears may have just been confirmed.
Stephanie White is going to be exposed as a fraud as a coach.
Stephanie White has officially thrown Caitlin Clark out of the system. What was supposed to be a season of growth has spiraled into locker room chaos.
She went on a complete media tour. Do everybody forget about the media tour Stephanie White had prior to the season?
Chemistry collapse and a coaching vision that's pushing their star player out of rhythm.
Sophie Cunningham goes in the post-game press conference and confirms what we've all known all along.
We've kind of wavered a little bit on that. We have our own islands.
Sophie Cunningham said it herself. This team is on different islands. That's not just a metaphor. It's a warning sign.
Sophie literally says, there's a little thing going on in the locker room.
The locker room is fractured, and what once looked like a future dynasty is now looking like a disaster in progress.
This locker room is split, and she uses the term different islands going on in this locker room.
In today's video, we break it all down, from the crumbling chemistry to the system that's suffocating Clark's potential.
Caitlin Clark is the needle mover.
She is the needle mover.
She is the franchise player.
And she was the MVP. She is the main draw.
She wasn't the one who was full sprinting down the court.
Who's to blame? And is there any way back from this? Drop your thoughts in the comments because we want to hear from real fans. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because CC 100%, we're telling it exactly how it is. Let's get into it.
I think that we've kind of wavered a little bit on that. We have our own island.
It's been a disaster. The good teams can keep the locker room together.
What started as whispers around the league has now exploded into full-blown confirmation. The Indiana Fever locker room is fractured. Sophie Cunningham, in a post-game interview, admitted what fans had feared.
There's one really concerning thing that Sophie Cunningham said.
I think that we've kind of wavered a little bit on that. We have our own island.
That the team has our own islands, signaling clear division within the squad. That one phrase told the whole story. It wasn't just about on-court struggles. It was about chemistry, trust, and leadership falling apart behind the scenes.
Sophie Cunningham, in the post-game interview, speaks on this team and the islands within the locker room. Everybody's on their own little island.
She acknowledged that players aren't leaning on each other. They're not staying disciplined, and they've lost consistency. What once was a hopeful, united locker room has now become a scattered group with no clear direction.
The Indiana Fever are in a disastrous situation right now. They're in an absolutely disastrous situation.
Last season, even during losses, the Fever had unity. Players rallied around one another, and the energy was building towards something special. But this year, that feeling is gone.
They never said that last year. It was never said, like, she's not questioning the locker room, not saying there's locker room issues, because there's a big difference between a locker room not being super close.
Sophie didn't just hint at it. She put it out there in plain language. The team isn't together. And in today's game, where team chemistry can be the difference between potential and collapse, this kind of fracture is a dangerous sign.
One of the fractures was a DeWanna Bonner group off to the side.
When Cunningham said as a leader she needs to do a better job of grouping people, it wasn't just accountability. It was a cry for help. This is a team spiraling from the inside, and the issues are getting harder to hide.
Stephanie White speaking about Caitlin Clark actually learning this new system.
There's so many things that go into, and I'm talking about being happy personally. Like I want her to be happy personally. I mean, there's so many things that go into it. You know, it's a different group. While system might still be very similar, it's a different group, and you know, things are happening quickly, and being able to mesh. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I think we've seen that there's so many things that go into.
At the center of the chaos is head coach Stephanie White. She was brought in to guide this team forward, but instead she's dragging it backward. Her system, built on the slow-paced, grinded-out style that worked for her in Connecticut.
Caitlin Clark is a rising star in women's basketball. She's pulling in crazy viewership numbers.
She's my role model. I really look up to her. Why do you like Caitlin?
Yeah, she's so good at basketball.
Because she's that awesome person, and she has like a lot of aura, so like.
Is clashing hard with the fast, dynamic talent on this roster, especially Caitlin Clark. Rather than unleashing Clark's natural ability to push tempo and create in space, White's offense has slowed everything down. It's clunky, outdated, and clearly a poor fit for the roster she's been handed.
If it's not minor, then again, like I'm getting very close to just writing off the season.
Instead of empowering her players, she's trapping them in a system that kills flow and suffocates potential. Fans are calling it puke ball, and at this point, they aren't wrong.
Is she wants them to turn into she wants them to be old WNBA.
We are stuck watching an elementary school offense because Stephanie White is in over her head.
Fans is not happy with everything that has been transpiring with Caitlin Clark.
What makes it worse is that the disconnect isn't limited to the coaching staff. It runs straight into the front office. Amber Cox and Kelly Krauskopf are now being blamed for the messy construction of this team.
Whose idea was it to bring these old dinosaurs and put them on this roster, starting with DeWanna Bonner?
They brought in aging veterans like DeWanna Bonner and Natasha Howard, moves that made headlines but ignored locker room dynamics and basketball fit.
Tasha Howard decides that she'd rather rub up on Ezi Magdeburg's leg.
These signings haven't elevated the team. They've divided it. The roster feels like a collection of mismatched parts, and no one seems to know who's really in charge or what direction the team is heading.
That's nice.
And she was shooting the shit out of it.
Of course she was.
Right, so she was shooting the shit out of it. And
she's the face of the league.
Agreed.
She's the face of the league. Agreed.
Just have nothing but great things to say about who she is as a person. She's so welcoming and so warm as an individual that she can have a conversation with anybody. She's cut from the same cloth as me in that regard. You know what? Us Midwesterners, we tend to just, accept everybody with open arms. She was so kind to my family and everyone in the suite when she came to KC. So huge fans of Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark, once expected to be the centerpiece of a fast-paced rebuild, now looks like a player forced to adapt to a system that doesn't believe in her style. She's isolated, trying to carry a broken structure, while the veterans brought in to help are only adding to the disconnect.
It is not looking positive for them to be fixed. We can be honest here. It's not looking positive.
Behind the scenes, the trust is gone. What fans thought was a team on the rise has now become a cautionary tale. The chemistry is broken, the leadership is missing, and the system is collapsing. And at the center of it all is a coach whose vision is incompatible with the roster, and a front office whose choices have only made things worse.
I think that we've kind of wavered a little bit on that. We have our own island.
It's been a disaster. The good teams can keep the locker room together.
The moment Sophie Cunningham stepped to the mic and said, "We have our own islands," everything changed. It wasn't just a casual comment. It was a confirmation of what many fans and analysts have suspected for weeks.
They never said that last year. It was never said, she's not questioning the locker room, not saying there's locker room issues, because there's a big difference between a locker room not being super close and there not being issues. And everything about the Fever last year was protect the locker room, protect the locker room, protect the locker room.
The Indiana Fever locker room is fractured. Last season, even in defeat, the team had unity. Players encouraged one another, fought together, and protected the culture being built.
The Rock and the Hard Place Island. Rock and the Hard Place Island. They know what it takes to win. Now they catch themselves in the middle of this weird locker room race war.
This season, that bond has disappeared. Sophie's words were clear. This team isn't leaning on one another. They're drifting. And when your locker room isn't together, your team doesn't stand a chance on the court. Cunningham took accountability, admitting she has to do a better job as a leader bringing players together. But the fact that such a statement even needed to be made says everything.
This locker room is split, and she uses the term different islands.
When a veteran has to publicly acknowledge that the squad is disconnected, it means things behind the scenes are far worse than fans even realize. The Fever aren't losing games because of bad luck. They're losing because there's no cohesion, no trust, and no leadership keeping the group focused.
Stephanie White is going to be exposed as a fraud as a coach. She didn't assemble that team. She inherited that team. Just like She inherited Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell.
What once looked like a future powerhouse is now stuck in dysfunction. At the center of all this is head coach Stephanie White, whose system is now under fire. Brought in to elevate the franchise, White has instead dragged the team into confusion. Rather than building around Caitlin Clark's strengths, her speed, creativity, and court vision,
Stephanie White is quite essentially bringing in the Connecticut Sun offense to the Indiana Fever. Two totally different types of teams.
White has imposed a slow, rigid system that mirrors her time in Connecticut. But what worked with a different group years ago is falling apart now.
She missed that first preseason game because of the quad.
She's a great passer. She reminds me of Steph Curry.
She has moved merchandise up 500%, ratings 50%.
Caitlin Clark, your greatest asset, is going to get hurt. The face of your league is going to get hurt if you continue to allow all this physical play to happen.
There's only one so far that truly has like a Tiger Woods, Mike Tyson, LeBron James.
Needle mover.
LeBron James in his prime impact on viewership, and that's Caitlin Clark.
Clark's game is explosive, dynamic, and built on movement. White's offense is slow, predictable, and completely mismatched with her personnel.
Caitlin Clark is the needle mover.
She is the needle mover.
She is the franchise player.
And she was the MVP. She is the main draw.
She wasn't the one who was full sprinting down the court.
Caitlin Clark is a rising star in women's basketball. She's pulling in crazy viewership numbers.
She's my role model. I really look up to her.
Why do you like Caitlin?
Yeah, she's so good at basketball.
Because she's that awesome person, and she has like a lot of aura, so like.
Instead of unleashing Caitlin's full potential, the system is boxing her in. Fans have called it puke ball for a reason. It's outdated, inefficient, and painful to watch. The deeper problem is that White doesn't seem willing or able to adjust. And that stubbornness is costing the Fever games, momentum, and most importantly, trust.
Whose idea was it to bring these old dinosaurs and put them on this roster?
This does not sound like it's a team. We have our own islands, and I understand on every single team.
Clark is being forced to play out of her natural rhythm. Aaliyah Boston, a dominant inside presence, is being underused. The pick-and-roll chemistry that briefly flashed potential between them is being stripped away by a system that seems allergic to flow. It's not just ineffective basketball, it's a complete misread of what this roster is built to do.
4 games in a row, we've had a double-digit lead, and we've lost the game.
They have thrown. Caitlin Clark would throw.
She don't know how to rebound. Like, what are we doing here? Because it makes no sense to me. It makes me feel like you're more worried about the people who've been here for years and them getting some kind of shine. That's costing us games.
And then there's the front office where the decisions made by Amber Cox and Kelly Krauskopf are being openly questioned. The veterans they brought in were supposed to bring leadership and balance. Instead, they've caused more tension.
Whose idea was it to bring these old dinosaurs and put them on this roster, starting with DeWanna Bonner?
DeWanna Bonner and Natasha Howard are experienced, yes, but experience doesn't mean fit. And in this case, it clearly hasn't worked. The locker room is divided. Some players reportedly just want to focus on the game. Others are more concerned with image and attention.
One of the fractures was a DeWanna Bonner group off to the side.
Caitlin Clark finds herself stuck in the middle of it all, caught between cliques, thrown into a fractured culture, and forced to carry a team that was never built properly around her. Even the system that seemed to keep things together last year, team bonding, group chemistry, a united mission, is completely gone.
Lisa Bluter did warn about this, bruh. She warned. You have to let her do what she does. That is part of her greatness.
Under Christie's sides, the players at least felt like one unit. Now under Stephanie White, those bonds are broken. There's no common enemy, no shared purpose, just individuals going in different directions. And the damage is showing in every single game.
The Indiana Fever are in a disastrous situation right now. They're in an absolutely disastrous situation.
Right now, this team is not just losing basketball games, it's losing itself. The structure is broken, the system doesn't fit, and the locker room is in crisis. If something doesn't change, and fast, then the Indiana Fever risk losing more than just a season. They risk losing the player who was supposed to save the franchise.
Stephanie White speaking about Caitlin Clark actually learning this new system. And me personally, I feel like she's forcing Caitlin Clark. She's forcing her hand into making her learn this new offense. Listen to what she had to say.
There's so many things that go into, and I'm talking about being happy personally. Like, I want her to be happy personally. I mean, there's so many things that go into it. It's a different group. While system might still be very similar, it's a different group, and things are happening quickly, and being able to mesh. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I think we've seen that there's so many things that go into.
As the chaos builds on the court and fractures widen behind the scenes, the final piece of this disaster is becoming clearer. Caitlin Clark is being isolated, not just from the system, but from the very foundation she was promised when she arrived in Indiana.
Take care of our locker room.
Woo! You did a shit job at that.
No one likes us, right? So everyone in our locker room, that's the only type of people that we have that we can lean on, and we got to be better in that area. We have got to stay disciplined. We have to stay focused. We need to get consistent, and we got to lean on each other. And I think that we've kind of wavered a little bit on that. We have our own islands, but as one of the leaders on the team, I got to do a better job of grouping people.
This wasn't supposed to be her rookie season. She wasn't supposed to walk into a locker room divided by cliques, held back by slow, outdated schemes, or led by a coaching staff and front office that feels completely disconnected from reality. But that's exactly what has happened.
WNBA rumors suggest Caitlin Clark will be among the first stars making $1 million annually. The most notable of which is, y'all already know who, the needle mover, Caitlin Clark.
So in 2024, she averaged 16.5 points per game, 4 assists, 5.5 rebounds. She shot 37% from the field and 31.8% from three. Now, if you look at her preseason in 2025, she only played 2 games in this preseason, and one was against that Brazilian national team. She played 21 minutes. She averaged 14.5 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds. She shot 52.5% from the field and 50% from three-point range.
The player who brought record-breaking viewership, jersey sales, and national attention to the Fever has been dropped into a broken environment and made to survive it alone.
Now watch this. Now, did y'all see the coach grab her? Watch this. Y'all see this? Wow. Why is she grabbing her? For getting the crowd hype like she ain't supposed to do that. Look at how she grabbing. Look at the hand on the arm. Hold up. Wait a minute.
Stephanie White's refusal to evolve has left Clark stuck in a role that minimizes her strengths. The front office's off-season decisions have surrounded her with mismatched pieces. And what's most alarming is the growing sentiment that this was never about building around Caitlin.
Caitlin Clark effect seems to be crazier than year one.
I love watching her score and just everything about her.
They went the extra mile just to watch her play here.
This is great news for women's basketball, period.
It was about using her popularity to mask a much deeper dysfunction. The Fever front office chased headlines. They brought in names, not fits. They talked about culture but ignored character. And in the process, they handed Caitlin Clark a roster that doesn't complement her game and a system that actively works against her.
Take care of our locker room.
Woo! You did a shit job at that.
Meanwhile, the locker room continues to splinter. Groups have formed. Trust has vanished. The bond that held this team together last season under Christy Sides, whether you liked her as a coach or not, is completely gone.
Even when they were losing games, it seemed like the locker room was in a good spot.
There is no leadership voice stepping forward to unite the group. There is no game plan built to unlock the potential of its generational player. Instead, there's confusion, tension, and an overwhelming sense that Caitlin Clark has been left to fight a battle the organization should have been prepared for.
Sydney Colson is on Class Clown Island. She's the jokester. She got Stephanie White and Aaliyah Boston doing some dumbass TikTok dance. Maris Dantis is on an island as well. I just want to play ball island. The Rock and the Hard Place Island. Rock and the Hard Place Island. They know what it takes to win. Now they catch themselves in the middle of this weird locker room race war. The social justice warrior island. Yeah, that's right. Brianna Turner on an island all by herself. All by herself, reading her protest books, reading her activism books.
Fans are no longer just disappointed. They're furious. Social media is flooded with calls for accountability, and many are starting to ask the uncomfortable question, did Stephanie White in the front office sabotage Caitlin's rookie year before it even began? Because from the outside looking in, it sure doesn't look like incompetence. It looks like neglect. Caitlin Clark deserves better. The franchise's future depends on her, and right now, that future is being wasted in real time.
Sophie Cunningham goes in the post-game press conference and confirms what we've all known all along.
We've kind of wavered a little bit on that. We have our own islands.
This locker room is split, and she uses the term different islands going on in this locker room.
So here we are, a locker room in pieces, a coach forcing a broken system, and a franchise cornerstone being pushed further and further from the spotlight she was meant to own. Caitlin Clark didn't just walk into a struggling team.
Caitlin Clark is a rising star in women's basketball. She's pulling in crazy viewership numbers.
She's my role model. I really look up to her. Why do you like Caitlin?
She's so good at basketball.
Because she's that awesome person, and she has like a lot of aura, so like.
She walked into a team in crisis. Stephanie White's vision is crumbling. The front office's decisions have backfired, and the Fever look more lost with every passing game. If something doesn't change soon, this won't just be a wasted season. It could be the beginning of a much bigger collapse. Now it's your turn.
Caitlin Clark effect seems to be crazier than year one.
I love watching her score and just everything about her.
They went the extra mile just to watch her play here.
This is great news for women's basketball, period.
Caitlin Clark is the GOAT.
She signed my jersey. So happy, I'm crying. I'm so happy. This is the best day ever.
Caitlin Clark is the needle mover.
She is the needle mover.
She is the franchise player.
And she was the MVP. She is the main draw.
She wasn't the one who was full sprinting down the court.
What do you think is really going on inside that locker room? Is Stephanie White to blame for this disaster? Has the front office failed Caitlin Clark? And can this mess still be fixed before it's too late? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. Hit that like button if you're tired of the excuses. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a moment, because CC 100%, we're calling it exactly how it is. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.